In contemporary times, tribal marks have become the dying lore of ancient days. In Nigeria, tribal marks were used as means of identification and beautification among some ethnic groups like the Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Igala, Tiv, Kanuri, and others. Clevy TV's Chidinma Okafor in this special report says the use of tribal marks is fast being seen as offensive and inhuman by some Nigerians.
Tribal marks in the olden days were used to identify people of a particular locality, especially in times of wars, which were common at that time. But in the present day, the use of national identity card or international passports appears to be generally acceptable. A number of reasons, including health hazards arising from facial mutilation due to the use of unsterilized blades and crude tools by non-professionals, account for the gradual rejection of tribal marks. According to popular Nigerian politician Senator Dino Melaye, the time has come for Nigerians to do away with tribal identity marks. It says carrying out facial mutilation is a form of infringement on the fundamental human rights of the child because it is being done without the child's consent. And if any culture infringes on the fundamental human rights of a person, it should be abrogated.
That bill was in 2016 November, and it's a bill against facial mutilation. And you give mark to a child without the consent of that child. The child grows up and says, oh, if I was not a child, I would have resisted this. And that is an infringement on the fundamental human right. Any culture that infringes on the fundamental human right of that person should be abrogated, because the fundamental human right as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, drawing tribal mark from Igala land to Ibadan to some other parts of Nigeria where you still find a child that is under 7 days old, being facially mutilated and all sorts of designs on their faces. And this mutilation and cuts and tribal mark is not done by professional medical experts. It's not done by nurses or people who have medical experience. It's by some very local people who use unsterilized sharp objects. And this results in diseases that will give either permanent disabilities to some of these kids, and in most cases, they even die of infections.
In November 2016, Senator Melaye sponsored a bill for the abolition of tribal marks, which passed the first and second readings but was yet to scale the third reading before its tenure ended rather abruptly following the decision of the Election Appeals Panel that nullified his second-term victory. He expected that the prohibition of tribal marks bill would have been represented before the State or House of Representatives by one of the members in the House, but wasn't. The Kogi-born politician says if he finds himself back in the Senate, he will definitely push for the representation of the bill.
Every bill dies with a particular legislative section. So if the bill is not passed and assented to by the president in that legislative section, the bill will have to be reintroduced afresh in another legislative section. If I find myself again in the Senate, I will definitely want to push it to a logical conclusion.
Like Senator Dino Melaye, not a few Nigerians see everything wrong with tribal marks, even as some see nothing wrong with it.
My mom briefed me on what happened when my dad came back from work. We're in Kaduna. I was born and brought up in Kaduna. And when my dad came back from work now, he met my mother, because my mother brought me back from the village then. Said, why all this mark? And they think it's a serious issue.
My dad actually have a tribal mark, and it somehow don't look good on him. So it's not something I want anyone to do to my child.
My child, tribal mark. No. It won't sit well with me and her. No. I won't accept it.
Well, I would not react in a negative way because I believe in culture. But not a very, massive mark like that, though. Yeah.
For many, tribal marks as part of Nigeria's cultural heritage may soon be a thing of the past, as more and more people no longer fancy giving their newborn babies such ethnic identities. Whether the implementation of tribal marks should be abolished in Nigeria through legislation remains to be seen. Chidinma Okafor, reporting for Clevy Television.